Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my annual NFL predictions. Just before the season starts, we got kickoff against the Rams and the Bills very soon. Still very excited for that and to obviously get into this whole season. So I've been doing what I've been doing every September now for the last couple of years and putting out my predictions for the 2022 NFL season. So let's get right into it. First off, we're going to start in the AFC. We're going to go to the East, and we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. I have them finishing with a record of 13-4. Feels like a lot of things are coming together for Josh Allen in this offense. The defense, it was already a solid defense, and it got even better when they brought in Von Miller. All around, they just seem like a very solid team, or I mean, more than solid. I mean, they're probably the favorite. They definitely are the favorite, actually, to win the Super Bowl, so you'll have to see if I have them winning the Super Bowl or not later on in the video. Second up, I have the New England Patriots. They finished with a 9-8 record, not good enough to qualify for a playoff spot. I've seen all kinds of predictions for the Patriots, maybe winning 11 or 12 games if Mac Jones can take that step up. I've also seen some people predicting maybe they only win 6 games or something. I think both are very much possible. I'm taking more of the middle here. I think Mac Jones will continue to be solid. Now, there is some concern in New England with Matt Patricia calling plays and whatnot, and I mean, just a very small coaching staff, but it's still Bill Belichick as the head coach there, so I wouldn't be too quick to doubt New England, but I still have them missing the playoffs. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins with an 8-9 record. They bring in Mike McDaniels to be their head coach, this young offensive whiz, but I don't know. I mean, I like Tua. I think he's overhated, but I don't know if he's going to be able to take that step up. I mean, maybe he does with guys like Tyreek Hill around him now, and, Raheem Mostert. I mean, they got the fastest offense in the NFL now. Can Tua just put it all together? Maybe he could be some kind of an MVP player, but I'm not going to be banking on that. Dolphins finish 8-9. Finally, in the East, I have the New York Jets going 5-12. This is a pretty talented roster without Zach Wilson for likely the first 4 games of the season, though. And when he comes back in, about a month or so, will he be able to put things together? Will he be able to play the guitar, as some people say, and, put things together here with the New York Jets? I could see a situation where, maybe the Jets sneak into the playoffs as a 7 seed, but I don't think that's going to happen. I have them going 5-12. Next up, we're going to go to the AFC North, and we got the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. I predict them going 11-6. Initially, I thought they might go somewhere, around 500, 8 or 9 wins on the year. But I mean, I just looked at their roster, and they got better from last year. Their biggest issue last season was, of course, the offensive line, and they fixed that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals get a little bit better, maybe even 12 or 13 wins if they can pick up where they left off. Also, I wouldn't be completely surprised if they did end up missing the playoffs, though. Second in the North, I have the Baltimore Ravens also going 11-6. If this team can stay healthy, unlike last year, I could definitely see them, making some kind of a deep playoff run, possibly winning this division as well. Because, I mean, they were, I think, 8-3 at one point, and then they lost their last 6 games of the season. They went from being the projected 1 seed in the AFC to dead last in their division. I think Baltimore is going to, stay a little bit healthier. Lamar stays around, maybe not all of their running backs get hurt. Obviously, injuries are still going to happen, but maybe not quite as many for the Ravens. Then in Pittsburgh, we've got the Steelers. I have them going 9-8 behind both Mitchell Trubisky to start off the season. And then around their bye week in week 9, I wouldn't be surprised if they switch over to Kenny Pickett if they're floating, especially somewhere around 500 or a little bit below 500 with Mitchell Trubisky as the quarterback. In my predictions, I actually have them on a 4-game losing streak going into that bye week. So maybe even Kenny Pickett gets, thrown in a little bit earlier than that if they do go on some kind of a losing streak like that. Or this could be the season where Mike Tomlin finally has a losing record, but that defense is still pretty good, and I think that's going to keep him in a lot of games. Bottom dwellers in the North, I have the Cleveland Browns finishing 5-12. Kind of sticking in a few games early on, but also kicking a lot of field goals with Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. And then by the time Deshaun Watson comes back in about week 12 or week 13, whatever that is there, I'm not sure how well this team's all going to be able to come together late. I mean, Jacoby Brissett definitely definitely could keep this team around 500 by the time Watson comes back, and maybe he leads them, into the playoffs, gets a wild card spot or something. But the little bit of Watson that we saw in the preseason, granted it's only preseason, but he didn't look great. And, I'm also kind of low on the Browns this season anyway. I have them going 5-12. In the South, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking the division with an 11-6 record. If Jonathan Taylor can stay healthy in year 3, I think he could have another big season. I think Matt Ryan, he's still very much an above average quarterback, and that's kind of all it feels like that they really need there. Obviously, you'd love to have a superstar under center, but only a few teams really have that luxury, and Matt Ryan is definitely not a bad quarterback to have, and their defense is very solid. All around, just a very solid team. Second in the South, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I would not be surprised if Trevor Lawrence has a big season. He throws for over 30 touchdowns. He's got a real head coach now. They got better. I mean, they didn't sign some of the biggest names in free agency. They were kind of just known for overspending, specifically on someone like Christian Kirk, but that's still an upgrade to their really mediocre, even bad wide receiver room that they had last year. So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars going 8-9, and I could also see a scenario similar to the Jets, even more so with the Jaguars, though, where they make that kind of a leap, sneak into the playoffs, get that 7, maybe 6 seed, or if the division's really weak, maybe they win the division with 8 or 9 wins, something like that, too. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if Jacksonville gets into the playoffs. Third, I have the Tennessee Titans. They're coming off being a 1 seed, but everyone seems to be down on Tennessee, partly because of Ryan Tannehill, and it kind of just feels like it's their time to kind of, go back to being kind of mediocre for another few years. Obviously, they can't go 9-7 anymore. I have them going 7-10. Now, they definitely could, keep up what they were doing. Harold Landry, I believe his name is, their linebacker. He just went out for the season due to an injury he suffered in practice, so that's not good for their defense. But if Derrick Henry can stay healthy for a lot of these games, Tennessee could definitely still be in it. Finally, in the South, I have the Houston Texans. I have them going 6-10. I think they're definitely maybe a little bit slept on, and by slept on, I mean I feel like a lot of people are predicting 3 or 4 wins for this team. Obviously, I have them winning 6, so that's not great, but I mean, if they win anywhere between 6 and 8 games, I wouldn't be surprised with that. I don't by any means think they're going to be making any kind of a playoff push, though, as they're still very much in the rebuild mode. A lot of that depends on how well Davis Mills can develop. Finally, in the AFC, we have the division that just went on for a full-on arms race. It's the AFC West, and on top, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, even with the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chargers making all kind of big moves, with the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, one of their best players, it kind of just still feels like the Chiefs are still going to win this division. It's almost like the other 3 teams are just going to eat each other alive, and then Kansas City still rising to the top. I have them going 12-5, but second in the division, I have the Las Vegas Raiders going 11-6. It's also with a tiebreaker with the Chargers also going 11-6. So, I mean, you could really flip-flop either one of those as second and third in the division. I have both of those teams making the playoffs with those records, of course. Obviously, the Raiders acquiring Devontae Adams from the Green Bay Packers, signing Chandler Jones. They got better on both sides of the ball, as did the Chargers, especially on defense. If Derwin James can continue to stay healthy, I think that could really shore up that secondary, especially with them bringing in J.C. Jackson as well, and also trading for Khalil Mack. And the one team I have not making the playoffs here, because I didn't want to have every team from one division making the playoffs, because I feel like a lot of people are predicting that, I have the Denver Broncos. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Raiders or the Chargers were one of the teams that maybe miss out on the playoffs. I got the Broncos, though. A lot of people kind of just penciling them into being good just because they have Russell Wilson. And I mean, that's honestly not a bad reason to be penciling them in, is, getting a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. But, I wanted to mix things up a little bit. Denver missing out on the playoffs. Jumping over to the NFC side of things, we're also going to start in the East over there, where I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking the division with a 10-7 record. They definitely got better from a year ago, especially trading for A.J. Brown. That really boosts up the offense. A lot of people are really high on the Eagles right now, though. They're like the favorite dark horse team to make some kind of a deep playoff run or even win the whole thing this season. I'm not quite that high on them. You have to see when I get to the playoffs at the end of the video, but I do have them winning 10 games. Behind them, I have the Dallas Cowboys going 7-10, flip-flopping the record of the Eagles. And I mean, could they make the playoffs again? Yeah, they looked pretty good a season ago. They won 12 games for a reason. But I don't know, there's just something off about this Dallas team. Their offense got a little bit weaker with trading away Amari Cooper for a bunch of stickers. But you know, if CeeDee Lamb can take that jump into being that wide receiver one, him or Michael Gallup, I'm not actually sure what his injury status is, but he will be playing at some point this season, I would imagine, if not already. Their offensive line is also already down 2 players, so I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that Diggs is going to be getting another 7, 8, 9 interceptions, however many he got a season ago, and I think we'll just continue to see him get burnt. Not that I think he's necessarily a bad cornerback, he's definitely overrated though. And yeah, Cowboys 7-10. I also have the Washington Commanders going 7-10, tying with the Cowboys there, but finishing a rank below them at 3rd in the division. Carson Wentz is definitely an upgrade over Taylor Heineke at quarterback, and you know, I'm a little bit more of a Wentz head. I've always liked Carson Wentz going back to his days with the Eagles, even before he went off in 2017. But definitely an upgrade. Now, he's definitely not the best quarterback in the league by any means. He's probably around that mid or bottom half of quarterbacks. Nonetheless, still an upgrade, and they still got a solid-ish defense. It's definitely not what it was in 2020, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington sticks in a few games this year. And then bottom dwellers here, I have the New York Giants going 4-13. I like that they brought in Brian Dable. I'm not sure he's going to be able to save this team with Daniel Jones, so I used to be really high on. If you go back to my predictions, I think a year or two ago, I think 2 years ago, I predicted the Giants to make the playoffs because I thought Daniel Jones would take that year 2 leap. He has not been able to do it in year 2, year 3, and I don't see him doing it in year 4. This is just not a very good Giants team. Now to the NFC North, I have the Green Bay Packers finishing 12-5, so no 4th straight 13-win season for Aaron Rodgers and company, but still winning the North. But the thing that really gets me excited about my Green Bay Packers this season is the defense. I would not be surprised. In fact, I think they will have a top 5 defense this year. They spent 2 first-round picks on defenders, both from Georgia's stacked defense that they had last year in college football, and they got a great secondary. I mean, you got Eric Stokes, if he can make that year 2 jump. They have probably the 2nd best corner in the league in Jair Alexander. They have some great safeties in Darnell Savage and Adrian Amos. They got Devondre Campbell. They got Rashawn Gary. They got Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, Dean Lowry on the defensive line. Like, this Packers defense looks pretty stacked, and I think for the first time, maybe ever in Aaron Rodgers' career, the defense is going to be carrying this team. Second in the North, I have the Minnesota Vikings. They got Kevin O'Connell now as their head coach, and I think he's going to lead them to 9 victories on the year. 9-8 is enough for them to grab the 6th seed in the playoffs. I'm not expecting them to have, the Rams offense necessarily, but I think he'll definitely be able to get the most out of guys like Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson, and even Kirk Cousins, who, puts up big numbers, not necessarily known for winning games, but I think he'll be making the playoffs for the 3rd time in his career this season. Next up are the Detroit Lions. They only won 3 games a season ago. I have them doing more than double that, going 7-10 this season. There are some people that are, putting them into the playoffs or whatnot. I would not put them there. I think Jared Goff is definitely, a solid quarterback, and this team all around got better from a season ago. And I mean, last year, they definitely could have won 7 games. They were in a lot of close games that they ended up losing, and so I wouldn't be surprised if a few more of those games go their way. Plus, they were on Hard Knocks, and I really like Dan Campbell and whatnot. So I like the Lions, but I just hope they don't get too good to where they become a threat to the Packers in the next year or two, or even this season. Finally, in the North, I have the Chicago Bears. This is a team I'm not very high on. They got Justin Fields in year 2, trying to, throw it up to Darnell Mooney, and that's about it. The offensive line looks bad. He has no one else to really throw the ball to, no other wide receivers. David Montgomery's a solid running back. It sounds like Roquan Smith is going to be sticking around on the defense, but other than that, there's not much on that defensive side of the ball. I have Chicago going 3-14 and not doing too hot this season. In the West, I have the defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams going 13-4, a game more than they had a season ago, getting the 2 seed in the NFC. And I mean, this team just got better from a year ago. Sure, they lost Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. in the offseason, but they replaced them with Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. Now, I know Wagner, he plays a different kind of linebacker position than Von Miller does, but still, I think that's huge for this defense, though. I would not be surprised if this team just doesn't miss a beat. Obviously, Stafford's shoulder, arm injury, whatever that is there, is concerning, but if, that doesn't become a big factor for the Rams, they could definitely be a problem. And even if it is a little bit of an issue, they're still a very talented team and will be a problem for anyone that they play. Second in the West, I have the San Francisco 49ers, a team that was oh so close to making the Super Bowl a year ago with an injured Jimmy Garoppolo under center. And if Trey Lance can take the leap that a lot of people think that he's going to be able to do and maybe even contend for the MVP this season, I think San Francisco just gets better. The defense looks really good. I mean, the offense looks really good. The special teams looks good. That's all 3 phases of the ball. San Francisco looks like a good football team. Of course, they were able to keep Deebo Samuel happy and got him paid on the roster too. If Trey Lance can take a big step up as well, I could see the Niners winning even more than 11 games this season. And of course, I have them making the playoffs. They're getting the 5 seed. Third in the division, I have the Arizona Cardinals going 7-10. You can't have a mid-season collapse if you're not doing great by mid-season. At least that's what I kind of predict the Cardinals to do, maybe taking a little bit of a step back. Now, Kyler Murray and co. could also very well prove me wrong and win 12 games and be even better than they were a season ago. But I don't know. There's just something about this Cardinals team. I just don't trust them, and I don't have them making the playoffs this season. And down in the cellar of the NFC West is the Seattle Seahawks. The only thing they had going for them the last couple of years was Russell Wilson, and now that he's gone, they don't have a whole lot. Obviously, they got a really good duo of receivers with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett for Geno Smith, and maybe eventually Drew Lock later on in the season to throw to, depending on what Seattle does at quarterback, obviously with Smith being named the starter to at least start off the season. But other than that, they don't have a whole lot going for them on offense. They don't have a whole lot going for them on defense either. This is just not a good Seahawks team, and they're going to be picking pretty high next April. And now down to the South, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going 13-4. Now, I definitely could also see a universe where this team goes 10-7. The offensive line got worse. Obviously, I'm not going to say that Brady's going to decline or anything. I said that, years and years ago, and he's just done fantastic things in Tampa Bay. He's had 2 of the best years of his career with the Bucs, throwing 40-plus touchdowns the last 2 seasons. I wouldn't be surprised if he does something similar again, or at least throws for over 30. He's still Tom Brady. This is still a high-powered Bucs offense. They got Chris Godwin. They got Mike Evans. Yeah, they lost Gronk, but, maybe he'll come back by November. That's what a lot of people are saying, at least. And they signed Julio Jones onto the roster. He's a really good wide receiver 3 or even 4 to have if Russell Gage is above him on the depth chart. But, that's still a loaded offense. The big knock there is their offensive line lost like 3 or 4 guys going into the season now. Will they be able to protect Brady? The defense still looks good. They still got a lot of those pieces from that Super Bowl team a couple of years ago, so I would not be surprised if they still have one of the best defenses in football. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints. I have them going 8-9, a losing record, but a playoff berth nonetheless. I like Jameis Winston on this team. He was having a good season until he tore his ACL a year ago. If he can pick up where he left off in that game, I wouldn't be surprised if, he has another good year. This defense is still looking really good. My big question for the Saints is, how do they do without Sean Payton? He was a big reason why they were winning all those games that they were from 2006 up until last year. Sure that he had a couple bad years, but for the most part, he's been keeping the Saints competitive. How do they do without him in that building now? We'll have to see. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers. They traded for Baker Mayfield, but quarterback was just one of a good amount of problems on this team. If Baker absolutely goes off this season, I could see them sneaking into the wild card berth. I already have a team with a losing record making the playoffs. They just need to win a couple more games to make a kind of a push like that. But I don't know. I just don't trust this Panthers coaching team, especially, and, the team that is around Baker Mayfield, although I am a pretty big Baker Mayfield fan. fan. I don't think that they're going to do too great this season. And finally, I have the Atlanta Falcons finishing with a 4-13 record. Their defense doesn't look too great. Their offense also doesn't look too great unless Marcus Mariota can like revive his career there and connect with Kyle Pitts. And if Drake London has a good rookie campaign, then I mean, maybe the Falcons managed to win 6 or 7, even 8 games. I mean, I'm pretty sure they won 7 or 8 games a year ago, which is always surprising to me that they did that decent a season ago with the roster that they had. Although I contribute a fair amount of that to Matt Ryan on the roster, so we'll have to see how they do without the best quarterback in franchise history. And now that's going to take us to the playoffs, starting with the AFC. I got the Raiders at the Colts. I got Indianapolis taking that game. Then we have the Chargers at the Bengals, and I have the Chargers pulling off a slight upset there against Joe Burrow and company. No repeat AFC championship for them. And I have the Baltimore Ravens pulling off a huge upset against the Kansas City Chiefs. In the division round of the AFC, it's the Chargers at the Colts, and I have LA getting the win, going to the AFC Championship, and their opponents, the Buffalo Bills, after they blow out the Ravens. To the AFC Championship game, I have the Chargers upsetting the Buffalo Bills. That's right, I don't have the Bills winning the Super Bowl like everyone else does in their predictions. Chargers going to the Super Bowl. And now to find out who they play representing the NFC. First off, you get Niners at Eagles. I have the Eagles winning that game. Vikings at Packers. Aaron Rodgers and company destroys Minnesota. And then you also have the Saints at the Rams. It's not even close. Rams win it. Then Packers at Rams, and I have Green Bay pulling off the upset against the defending Super Bowl champions. You also have the Eagles at the Bucs. I think this would actually be a pretty close game, but I have Tom Brady and the Buccaneers pulling out a victory here. To the NFC Championship game, it's Green Bay at Tampa Bay, and the Packers and Aaron Rodgers finally able to get over the hump of the NFC Championship game, going to Super Bowl 57 to, of course, play the Los Angeles Chargers. And who do I have winning this game? Well, I'm biased, and I'm going to say the Green Bay Packers. Originally, I actually had the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl, but I've seen so many other predictions this week that have the Bills winning the Super Bowl, and I just felt like it was boring. And you know what else is boring though? Picking Green Bay to win the Super Bowl the last 3 seasons, but that's what I've done. I also didn't predict the Bills to the Super Bowl because that was my Super Bowl prediction a year ago, was Bills-Packers. So I was mixing it up a little bit. I think Justin Herbert versus Aaron Rodgers would be a really fun matchup. Obviously, Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers would be a lot of fun as well, but I have Green Bay taking home their 5th Lombardi trophy. Aaron Rodgers winning a 2nd ring. And now for my predictions for MVP. I thought about, several players. Maybe Aaron Rodgers wins himself a 3rd. Maybe Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Trey Lance if, he has that big year 2. But ultimately, I'm going to give it to Josh Allen taking home the MVP. He'll probably throw for, let's say, 40 plus touchdowns and 4,800 yards. Great year from Josh Allen, but ultimately falling short as the curse of the MVP lives on. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Now, I actually did predictions about a week ago on my new podcast, The Veteran and the Rookie. So a little bit different. So if you want to check out maybe what I thought a week or 2 ago, you can check that out in the upper right-hand card or in the description down below. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead and leave your comments down below of what you think is going to happen this season, who your Super Bowl champion is, your MVP, all that stuff. Thank you again for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, this has been Jeffrey reminding you to stay moist.